I was just believing that this would not just be a title of a series, but it would be something that we walk away with, tangibly knowing that God is with us. That if we're in a good season or a bad season, a struggling season, whatever the season may look like, that we know that, hey, God is with me. That I never feel alone. Some of you in the room may be feeling lonely today. That you would today catch something, that God is with you. That you don't need to feel alone. And if you're a Liverpool supporter, you know that you never walk alone. In fact, go read the song that they sing. The lyrics are actually quite powerful. In the darkness of a storm, I'll never walk alone. It's beautiful. So Liverpool supporters, there we go. We're still on top of the log. I just wanted to throw that out there. No, we couldn't say this much, so I'm throwing it out there that we are. My question to you this morning is, have you ever been on a boat? If you've been on a boat, show me your hands if you've been on a boat. Any type of boat, it doesn't matter, a boat, as long as you've been on a boat on water. A boat on water. Some of you maybe have been kids on a boat on a trailer. No, on water. Have you been on a boat? There's different kinds of boats that you get. And I remember when I was a youngster, I was about 14, 15 years old. That's a youngster. And I went on a holiday with two of my friends. Now, the two of us, and myself, that's three. Good math, Sean. We went on holiday together to the Vol Dam. But his dad, because they owned a house there, and his dad left us alone. Teenage boys at the Vol Dam alone. Never do that, parents. Never do that. They're in Australia now, so it's fine. I can talk about it. But as we were at the Vol Dam, the one condition was you will not get on the boat. You will not drive the boat, because obviously the son knew how to do that kind of thing. We didn't have skipper licenses and all of that. So we actually were good teenagers and respected that rule. We didn't use the boats at all, but we thought one night, everybody say night. One night, while it was dark outside, we thought, you know what, it's a good idea to get an inflatable boat, something like this next slide. So we pumped it up with a little pump, whatever it does. There we are with the inflatable boat at night, that I mentioned that it was night, it was dark at the middle of the night. We thought it would be a good idea to go onto the water and go fishing with an inflatable boat. So there the three of us are teenagers, no fear. There we go on the water. We're paddling out into the middle of the water. And as we get to the middle of the water, while my friend threw his casted his reel, and there he cast it again, and he cast it again. And by the fourth time, the hook caught the back of the inflatable boat. Now, who of you knows that a hook and an inflatable boat they're not compatible? Like some relationships, they just don't work out. It's not compatible. So there the boat starts going. We're like, oh my goodness, my friend jumps out, he starts kicking, he was quite good at swimming, so he's at the back of the boat kicking like a motorboat. We're trying to get closer to the shore, but can I tell you, fear set in. It may not have been a storm, but because there was a darkness of night, we felt ourselves going, oh my word. I was so scared. Eventually, just to finish stories, because my wife doesn't finish stories, but I do, when... If you were at a preach about 2 weeks ago, she never finished her story, but her dad was okay. I just wanted to let you know. But anyway, there I am. We are on the shore, but can I tell you the fear that set in my heart that day? I wonder how many of us have felt moments like that. Maybe not on a little inflatable boat, but you're in the middle of something and it's just darkness around you. You feel like you might be sinking. You feel like you might be going, you don't know where's left and right, you don't know what's up and down. Life is just a bit chaotic. Someone's maybe alongside you pretending to be a motorboat to get you forward, but you're just in a season of darkness, of struggle, of storm. I mean, I even went on a boat one time in the deep sea fishing. It was so cool. Last year, January, I think it was, we went deep sea fishing. But it was raining. Now, go to the previous picture, Mr. Cool, awesome Tian. He's amazing. Can we give it up for Tian? He's so awesome. No, the one more back before that. One more before, yeah. The waves didn't look like that. But the boat did go up, and it did go down. And it went up, and it went down. And who knows that's a scary feeling if you've never been in the ocean on a boat. Knowing like, are we going to sink? Are we not going to sink? Are we going to sink? Are we not going to sink? It's a scary feeling. Many of you may be feeling in that space. You're in a storm of life. It may look a little bit like the picture on screen. It may be like the inflatable boat, like you're sinking. But many of us have been through a storm. I want to encourage you with the following. You're either coming out of a storm, going into a storm, or a storm is hiding around the corner. Very encouraging. I want to encourage you this Christmas that you're either going out of a storm, going into a storm, or a storm is waiting around the corner. Okay, that wasn't encouraging. No matter how I said, I want to encourage you. It doesn't matter. A storm is a storm, but I do want to encourage you with this, that no matter what season or storm, God is with you. That should be encouraging. That whether you're sinking in the middle of the Vaal River or you're in somewhere on the ocean and the waves are too big to compare, I want to remind you that God is with you in every storm, in every season. Matthew 1:23 actually promises the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. This isn't a made-up story. This is a promise that God will be with us. It is his name. It is who he is. He will be with you in all kinds of seasons and all kinds of storms. God is with you. And so I've titled my message, Every Season, Every Storm. God with us. Every season, every storm. Unfortunately, some of you here are in a storm. A storm you just want to get through. Storm of depression. It's December. Weight is on your shoulders. Maybe it's a financial storm. Maybe it's a business storm. A relational storm. See, I couldn't shower this morning. That could be your storm because there was no water. I had to lighten the mood there for a second. But sometimes we find ourselves in the middle of real pain, in a season of struggle. And unfortunately, a lot of the times what we do then is we either run from God, we start questioning God, we start asking, why, God? Why are you doing this to me, God? Why are you allowing this, God? Why am I in a storm? I cannot understand this. I haven't done anything wrong. My life has been pretty sinless. I mean, I did shout at the one person in traffic, but that's about it. Why am I in the storm? Craig Rochelle reminds us, never allow the presence of a storm to cause you to doubt the presence of God. Never allow the presence of a storm to cause you to doubt the presence of God. Why? Because he promised to be with you always. I want to look today at a storm in the Bible in Acts 27, and we're going to look at some men who were in a ship in the middle of a storm. It was quite a crazy storm. It was quite a fearful storm. The crew was so terrified that at some point they're throwing out their cargo and the things on ship just to load off some weights. I'm sure they threw some people over maybe as well, but there they were throwing things overboard. The storm was scary. They were terrified. They thought they were going to die. And before we actually take it from verse 20, I want to give you background context. Paul was actually on trial. And I heard at our partners' lunch that I love preaching on Paul. So we're back at Paul, and I love preaching on Paul. You are a good man, Paul. But yeah, Paul is on trial. But what they didn't know about Paul is that he's a Roman citizen. And so he's like, I'm appealing to Caesar, which means where I am right now is not going to work. I want to appeal to Caesar. So they actually wanted to go off to Rome. But in order for them to go to Rome, they needed to get on a ship because where they are and where they need to go required a ship. But he told the captains, guys, it's not a good idea for us to set sail right now. Just listen to me. I've been through this. I've done this. I've been there. I've worn the t-shirt. This is not a good idea. It's not a good time of the year. It's probably mid-October. It's not great to be sailing out in this time of the year in the Mediterranean Sea. This is not a good idea. We should not set sail. Guess what the captain did? Buckle up, buttercup. We're setting sail. So Acts 20, we take our story from there. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and the storm continued raging, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. After they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and said, "Men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourself this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me and said, 'Do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen, just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island.'" Can you picture this? No sun, no star. Covered, cloud, storm continues to rage. In those times, they didn't have the fancy equipment and navigation systems that we have now, and depth, they had old school stuff. And they actually relied on the sun and the star for navigation. In order to get to one place, they had to see where the stars and the suns are. We wouldn't be able to do that today, but they knew exactly how to do that. They were without hope in this time. They were without navigation in this time. They were going to die. And again, this was a literal storm, but I'm sure we can actually compare it to something that's not literal. Maybe it's part of who you are today. Cloud cover all the time. No navigation. You feel lost. You feel broken. The storms continue to rage. Maybe you've used that sentence. This storm just won't pass. It just won't stop. The storms are continuing to rage, and they said, we're finally giving up all hope. 276 passengers giving up all hope. That's pretty much church today. Imagine all of us in a ship, not one of us having hope. All of us giving up hope at the same time, going, it's over, we're dead. We've been at this for too long. The storm's been going for too long. Even with Paul himself, he felt fear. He felt despondent, I'm sure. And Paul's life, just by the way, this was one of the storms he encountered. His whole life was a storm. And he's like a legend of the faith. His whole life was a storm. It wasn't easy for him. He practically had a storm every turn that he went. But in order to achieve great things, sometimes we have to go through storms. We have to get through storms. So my first point today is know who you belong to and who is beside you. Know who you belong to and who is beside you. Know who you belong to. You belong to God. The God who is with you is the God that you belong to. After Paul's I told you so moment, he had this moment where he's like, guys, we shouldn't have done this. I told you so. Don't you love it when someone does that? I mean, yesterday would have been such a good example in our household. In the morning, I woke up and I'm like, there's cricket at Wanderers tonight. Love, I know you're not spontaneous, but I am. Could we possibly buy tickets for Wanderers? Well, you don't have to wonder any further. She said no. So we didn't go to Wanderers, and for those of you who don't watch cricket, it rained out and the match was abandoned, sadly for the rest of us, because we couldn't watch a match last night. But that would have been a moment in our lives where she would have driven back in the car from Johannesburg and gone, I told you so. So Paul had this I told you so moment. There he is. I told you guys we shouldn't be on the ship. You guys forced me as a prisoner to join you. Oh my goodness, guess what? I've got good news. He had good news. Then he says these encouraging words. I urge you to keep your courage. The God whom I belong to, the God whom I serve, sent me a message. Do not be afraid. Paul knew who he belonged to. The God who I belong to. The God who I serve, the God who promises to always be with you. This is a reminder for some of you this morning. Keep courage. Do not be afraid. Know who you belong to. I hope my kids know who they belong to. That they know when they're in trouble, Daddy's right there. Do you know who you belong to? That God is someone you can rely on. He's someone you can count on. He's someone you can pray to. He's someone you can run to, not run away from. In the midst of a storm, He's with you. He's beside you. Know who you belong to. In the toughest of storms in life, do not be afraid. Why? Because never let the presence of a storm cause you to doubt the presence of God. He's always there beside us. He's always there to calm the storm. He's always there to give you courage to face the storm. He's always there to take your hand and walk through the storm. But nevertheless, God is always there. And there was a reason Paul had to hear this. Do not be afraid. Keep your courage. Why did he hear it first? In order to tell his crew and tell the people around him and tell all 275 people on the ship. Why did he need to hear it? Because he was scared. There was fear in him, and the angel had to remind him, you're going to Rome. And you will get there. Do not be afraid. He needed reassurance. Maybe for some of you this morning, you need some reassurance that God is with me. I need not be afraid. I know who I belong to. I mean, church, you have no idea all the different ways that God is there for you. If we could just look at our lives, we would see that God is there for us. I mean, supernatural angel appeared to Paul. That's how God was there in that moment. Other times, God appeared in different ways. God was with him in different ways. He's with you in the form of His Spirit. If you're a child of God, you're filled with His Spirit. So He's literally in you, through you, with you, around you. If you're a follower of Jesus, that's who you are. He goes before you. He's hearing your prayers. Yeah, but God hasn't answered them. Maybe a no is a good answer for what you're praying. But He's hearing your prayers. He does hear your prayers. He listens better than any husband I know. He's comforting you in your hurt. He's directing you when you're lost. Even if you feel lost, He's still directing you. God is always with you. You have no idea all the ways that God is with you in the presence of a storm. I love what Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy 4:16-17. Everybody else deserted me. No one stood by me, but the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength. For a community-based church, hopefully this will never be said that no one stood by me, I felt deserted. But even if the church fails that role, even if your friends fail that role, God will always be by your side. He'll always give you the strength that you need. It's a promise. Emmanuel, God with us. He's giving you strength with me. I know who I belong to. I know that He doesn't leave me nor forsake me. I know that even when I'm shaken, He is beside me. It's all about who is beside you, who's with you, who you belong to. I mean, when we can realize that God is with us, when we can realize that He's beside us, it changes our posture in the middle of the storm. Imagine being in a storm and actually being okay because you know He's with you. I'm not saying you'll never fear. There'll probably be a moment where the storm claps you in the face and you're like, oh no, I did not see this coming. There'll be a moment of uncertainty, but you got to remind yourself that He is with me. He is beside me. He never leaves me. God is with us. And so I realize that my posture can be one of faith, one of strength, not a victim, but a victor. I know that I can stand up and my mood can change because God is with me in the storm. It builds your faith when you see this. It redirects your mindset. It resets your mindset. It's all about who's with you. I remember when I was in grade 6. Now, this is quite an embarrassing story. I was in grade 6. I was small, I was short, and I was quite shy. Small, short, and shy was I. And there I was in grade 6. And I went to grade 8 and I was still the shortest of the class. Something happened after that. I grew up. Thank you, Jesus. But I was small, short, and shy. And who knows when you're small, short, and shy? This is a tongue twister. When you're that you have people that think they can bully you and pick on you and mess with you. So I was pretty smart and I got myself more aggressive grade 6 friends. Bigger grade 6 friends. Friends who nobody wants to mess with. And I stood behind them. And we were friends, and the one day they didn't pitch up at school, all 3 of them. I remember the one specifically, he lived in Randfontein, his name was Karen. He never pitched up the day, and I was like, he's the guy I relied on every day. There, my friend, and he wasn't there. So that day, grade 7s joined us as the grade 6s, and we played together on the field. I think we were playing Open Gates or something like that. Anybody remember that game? So, Open Gates, run. So we were running. Some grade 7 gets upset because you're joining my friend group, and you're getting upset because you're playing with us. So he gets upset and he punches me in the face. I chip my tooth, I cry, I go home. I don't tell my parents, I don't think. I'm sure they saw something was wrong, but they didn't ask. Did you ask? I don't know. Okay, anyway. So there I am. I'm still going to therapy for that one. And there they punch me in the face, my tooth is chipped, and I'm feeling so angry, so scared, because I'm small, shy, and short. And my friends weren't there. So the next day I didn't want to go back to school, obviously. What if they do it again? By the way, that was the first and last time I ever got punched, because I'm a nice guy. So there I am. I go back to school the next day because you don't just skip school unless you're coughing and sick. And I'm so scared. I'm terrified. I'm petrified. I don't want to see this dude again. They're going to play with us again. What if he punches me? But thank you, Jesus, that my friend Karen was at school. I told Karen what had happened, so break time came, and Karen had no limits. He didn't hold back for anything. So he went to the grade 7, and that's not good. But I was feeling happy. Because I know that when Karen doesn't come to school again, guess what? He's not going to do that to me. Because Karen's going to come back the next day and punch me in the face. But it changed my posture, my demeanor, my confidence, because I knew that who was with me. See, when we know who's with us, we'll have confidence in the middle of the storm. You might be feeling petrified and terrified and scared, and what if I break another tooth, or what if I go through a similar situation, or what if this never ends? What if the storm continues to rage? What if my life falls apart? What if? But what if you can remember that God is with you, and in the middle of a storm, you can have confidence because He's by your side. He's by your side. He's by your side. He never leaves you. He never forsakes you. He is with you in the storms of life, the good seasons, the bad seasons, the okay seasons, the lonely seasons, the desperate seasons, the depression season, the anxiety season. He's with you. He's by your side. Know who you belong to. I didn't belong to my friend, but it was nice to have a friend who could be aggressive and know who you belong to. He's with you in the storm. In fact, there's another New Testament story in Matthew 8. Powerful story, the disciples being in a different boat, not a ship, being in a different storm. And yeah, Jesus is actually on the boat with them. And he's sleeping. For goodness sake. Jesus is sleeping and there's a storm, and the disciples do what you and I would do in every storm. They freak out. Why are we here? Why is this happening to us? I'm too young to die. Whatever they said, I don't know what they said. But they're in the middle of the storm. They're freaking out. Jesus is on the boat. Why don't you care? Why aren't you with me? Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Protecting us, your disciples. Why are you not raising us better? What's wrong? And Jesus gets up and says, why are you so afraid? You of little faith. Why are you so afraid? Maybe that's a question that you need to answer this morning. Why are you so afraid when you know who you belong to? Why are you so afraid when you know who's beside you? Why are you so afraid? Because of the doctor's report? Yeah, but I remember who's with me. So no matter what I go through, I know that He's able. And even if He doesn't, He is good. So why are you afraid? You of little faith, not you. I'm saying what He's saying. Why are you afraid? And Jesus said, peace. Be still. And they experienced peace in the boat. Why did they experience peace? Because Jesus was on the boat. Real peace is not found in the absence of a storm. It's found in the presence of Jesus. So whatever you're going through, peace is not in the absence of a storm. You're going, oh, I don't have any peace because my life's chaos. No, it's because you're not in the presence of Jesus. If we get into His presence, we'll experience peace no matter what the storm is. Easy to say, difficult to live. It's all about who's beside you. So yes, storms will happen. I'm sorry, church. The trouble-free life is a fairy tale. But God is with, and if anybody ever told you that if you become a Christian, you'll have a trouble-free life, I am sorry that they lied to you. There's no theology that matches that. In fact, the Bible keeps saying how there will be storms, there will be trials, there will be troubles. Life is not going to be a breeze for Christians. This isn't a wussy-sissy type of Christianity. This is something we need to buckle up because the storm is coming, but I know who's with me. I know who's on my side. I love what Bianca Althoff says. We may not know the why, but we must trust the who. We may not know the why, but we must trust the who, because the longer we stay in the why, the more bitter we become. We have to trust the who. Who is with me? Who do I belong to? Who is by my side? Who's in the storm? It is God. He never leaves me. He never forsakes me. I belong to Him. I serve Him. That's the God that is with me. My second point is God with us. Believe Him. God is with us. Believe Him. Verse 25 in the New King James Version says, therefore, take heart. I just love that word, take heart. If that's all we can get from the whole message today, take heart. Have courage. Just take heart. Have a moment where you go, He's with me. Take heart. For I believe God that it will be just as it was told me. I believe God. He didn't say I believe in God. He didn't say I believe in God, which is proclaiming His existence. He was saying, I believe God, which means I can put my confidence in Him. I can put my faith in Him. I can rely on Him. It's one thing knowing His existence. It's another thing living in His confidence. In saying, God, I believe God. I do believe in God, but I believe God. I know that He can do it. I know that He's with me, that He never leaves me nor forsakes me. He knows better. And we have a Bible full of promises, so we can trust in Him. The storm and the dangers were real for Paul, but they were not bigger than God. I love this. Have faith in God. Another version says that it will happen. This one says, as they have told me. But I believe God that it will happen. That it will happen. My faith is not in what I see. My faith isn't in the things around me. My faith is in God. In what He says, in what He does. I have faith in God that what He says will come to pass. In the middle of my storm, maybe I need to remind myself that I belong to God, but I also believe God. That it's not just belonging to Him, but I believe what He says. I believe in His promise. I believe that Emmanuel is with me. I believe it. I truly, truly believe that God is with me. That I don't just belong to Him, but I can believe Him. That His promises are yes and amen. I have faith in God that it will happen. My faith is not in the boat that can get me from here to there. My faith is not in my business that is supposed to be making money. My faith is not in my marriage. My faith is not in my children. My faith is not in the season that I'm in. My faith is not in that. It's not in the things. It is in the one who commands the winds and the waves. My faith is not in a ship. My faith is in the creator of the wood that made the ship. I believe Him, God with us. I have faith that it will happen. I don't know what season you're in right now, but maybe again there's a reminder for you to not be afraid, but also have faith. Have faith. Have faith. Maybe it's a reminder that today you need to have faith again to believe that it will happen. Believe that it will happen. And the thing for me is, I know many of us go, yeah, but what if it doesn't? But what if it does? We can have this debate all day. Yeah, but what if it doesn't? What if it does? I'd rather be on the optimistic side of things and go, what if it does? I've got nothing to lose. Believing that, what if it does? That it will happen. I have faith in God that it will happen. Here's the bottom line. You can't control when a storm blows up. Ish. You can't control how severe the storm is. You can't control how long the storm lasts. You can't control what people say about you. You can't control what people do to you. But you can control what you believe. That's the one factor that we can control. I can control what I believe and who I put my faith in. Know who you belong to. Know who's beside you. And believe Him. In Jesus' name, God with us, the hope of glory, God with us. He renews my strength, God with us. In any storm, in any season, I can believe Him.